Sam, tell us about the State of Racket.
Okay, thank you very much. It's an honor to get to do this talk again, and particularly to get to do this talk in person with all of you. So I've given talks like this the last couple of years via Zoom. Those are less fun. Is that better? Okay. So today I get to report on the state of Racket to all of you. If I was giving the State of the Union, I would say that the state of Racket is strong, but really the state of Racket is all of you. So we have this awesome opportunity to be back together in person. Again, I can tell that the energy is back, that the opportunity to collaborate and talk to people, work together is also back. And that's really exciting. Seeing Sriram eating donuts is something that I've missed over the last several years, and I'm really happy to be back together. So I'm going to try to give my own perspective and a little of the core team's perspective on what we've done in the last year, where we are, and I'm not going to try to predict the future because what we've seen already in the last 2 days, that's where the future is coming from. And I just want to talk about what we've accomplished. And in particular, what I want to do is celebrate all the people who have accomplished those things. So we've released Racket several times over the last few years. This sounds at this point like it's a boring announcement. We had 8.4, and we had 8.5, and we had 8.6. And coming soon, we have 8.7. But I really want to give credit to the people who make this work, and in particular, John Clements, the release manager for Racket, has really done a huge amount of work, and having a big system with millions of lines of code that releases like clockwork every 3 months takes a lot of work, takes a lot of investment by John and by everybody else who works on that, and it's not something we should take for granted. Racket did not used to release on a regular schedule. But Racket's releases are now more reliable than this display technology, and for that we can all be very thankful. So coming soon, we're going to have 8.7, more cool stuff is going to continue appearing in Racket, and I think if I can predict the future, it's going to be that we continue to regularly release Racket with lots of cool new features every 3 months, and that's going to keep happening. I also want to talk about some of the new and exciting stuff that people have done and built and shipped over the last year. And many people will know some of these things. Some people will know all of these things, but I think it's valuable to see all at once the different things that have been built and the ways in which Racket has grown over the past year. So one really significant thing that's changed, that's impacts potentially the life of many people who use Racket, is Racket has a new build system called Zhuo, and I think I was sort of close to that, which is written in, which is sort of Racket. So it's a build system that looks like this, and this could be a Racket program. I even wrote a hashline recently that implements this. And this is now how the main Racket distribution is built, and throwing out thousands of lines of make files. So down with domain-specific languages written by other people, up with domain-specific languages written by us. And so this is the new build system. It's cool. There was also a tiny implementation of Scheme or Racket or something small that is a single C file and could potentially be used for other interesting things, although currently it's mostly used to build Racket. This had a bunch of neat benefits ranging from not writing makefiles anymore to greater parallelism to automatic integration with the new make job server protocol. And so that's a cool new big change to the core of Racket that's happened this year. Here's another sort of totally different kind of change. So these are violin plots. You can sort of see in the yellow one why they're called violin plots, because they look they're a really nice way of visualizing a distribution. You can see that this distribution here is bimodal, whereas this distribution here is sort of extremely spread out and so on and so forth. This is, if you haven't used Racket's plot library, I encourage you to. It's extremely powerful and can let you do anything from plotting surfaces in 3 dimensions to visualizing your data sets. And violin plots are a new and popular visualization technology that's now available. So this was contributed by Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. But Plot continues to improve. Alex Harsiani, the maintainer of Plot, is doing a really great job with moving that forward. So this is another cool thing that is in Racket on your laptop. Another cool thing that happened, Bogdan Popa, a web developer who has worked a lot on the Racket web servers, put a bunch of time into optimizing the performance of the Racket web server. So if someone asks you, well, does Racket have a web server? Is it fast? You can tell them that it's faster than Express, the default web server in Node.js. So Bogdan, this is the result of several years of pull requests that Bogdan and some other people have contributed to improving the web server's performance. It just keeps getting better and keep finding ways to improve Racket and improve the web server to make it work better and run faster.
Can I make a small comment about this? And it's also, the code isn't ugly. It's not like he made these changes and it's like destroyed the abstractions. Like, it's still using the same structure that was there before, but he's finding ways to use Racket features more effectively. And so I'm actually extremely proud of this. It's not just, he didn't write a C library that we just hook into with SFI or something like that.
Yeah, in fact, I had a while ago wanted to get rid of the web server's dependence on the mislib library. And if you know what mislib is, then I'm sorry about that. And so my strategy was to just copy and paste all the code that it was using into the web server and not really change anything, because it was using some ancient abstractions that were a bad idea. And instead, Bogdan wrote something much better that was just better than the old code that it was using. And so now the dependency problem is fixed, and we're not, instead of copying and pasting things. So this is a nice result, and it's happened by making things better and not just faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do those thumbs mean?
So this is the Tech Empower benchmarks, which is, I think, the most popular web server benchmark suite. And these are requests per
They made it fast.
Requests per minute on a variety of different tasks. I think this is the plain text response. And yeah, there's some other things, returning JSON documents or doing database queries. Bogdan also put some effort into optimizing the database connection work to improve that performance as well. Okay. On a yet different note, so There's a new equality predicate. In case you were thinking that Racket already had enough different ways of checking whether two things were equal, you were wrong. Racket needed more. So Alex Knauf built a new one. It's called equal always, and it checks whether two things will always be the same. And you can see that on lists, it's structural equality, just like equal, so both of these produce true. But on mutable data like vectors, if equal says these two vectors are equal, because they're structurally equal, and equal ignores the fact that they are mutable, and therefore, right after you checked this, one of them may change to not be equal to the other and invalidate whatever you thought you were checking. But equal always says that these are not equal, so it's doing structural traversal, but being aware of mutability so that it doesn't tell you that two things are equal if they might soon be unequal. For anyone who's aware of this, this is very similar to Henry Baker's egal predicate, but Alex did a ton of work to figure out how to integrate this with everything from the chaperone system to the way that hash tables work and how equality and hashing can be overridden. So all the details that you expect to be correctly worked out in the core of Racket are worked out here, and this is a really valuable addition. The motivating application of equal always is the Rhombus project, and there the plan is to use equal always as the default equality. You just use the equal sign to compare two things. It's going to do this, which we think is the most sensible default equality, and hopefully people won't all have to think about a family of 17 different equality predicates. So, great work by Alex. Another cool feature that you may not have noticed, but can make your life just a little bit easier. How many people have gotten an error message when they ran a Racket program because their ZO files were out of date?
Oh.
How many people have found that to be a helpful and useful experience? Where you were like, wow, I'm really glad that I got this error message here. So now you can not have that experience anymore. The -y flag to the Racket command line binary will just automatically compile your program before running it, so you will not have out-of-date ZO files.
It should have been called Why So Long.
Alias Rackety too.
Jack?
Why didn't we just do that by default?
So unfortunately, some people in this room, like me, write programs that make your program take a really long time to compile. And so if you've made the mistake of using my software for your Racket program, then you might not want to always do this. But for other people, I recommend just doing this all the time. Jack?
Why would they matter if they're not out of date? Like, if it did this automatically, wouldn't it only matter in cases when the ZO files are out of date? And they're like, the alternative is you do the old way, it just doesn't run.
It always compiles. It doesn't compile if necessary.
No, it does compile if necessary.
But it only happens every 6 months, right? Like when I upgrade a version or something.
So there are lots.
And I would anyway have to do the compiling. Right?
The misconception here is that it can't work if you don't do this. There's lots of times where you have out-of-date ZO files and it works anyway, and you don't notice because it doesn't give you that error message. But in those cases, instead of working, it would work and give you the right answer, but just after 30 seconds of waiting for your program to compile.
By compile, do you mean to create a compile directory and save ZOs?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's another reason
Yeah, it writes to your file system. So there's various reasons why you don't want And I think the biggest reason is that the Racket binary has existed for a long time, and it has a particular set of behaviors, and changing those behaviors in the default configuration is potentially risky. Sriram?
I don't know if it already does this, but it'd be super helpful if when it reports those warnings, instead at the top and the bottom of the compilation run, to avoid this, you look up the -y option. Discoverability is like
That seems like a good suggestion.
Print out the command you should have printed instead.
Yeah.
or at least just say look up the -y flag for Racket.
Yeah.
What's next?
Recompile.
Okay. So the next thing is the new handling of combining characters in Unicode, which are particularly important when you're working with emojis. There's lots of human languages out there where this is relevant, but we all really care about emoji. And so this is a example that I picked because Henri Savonin, a programmer at Mozilla, wrote a very long blog post about this problem, and giving a lot of different languages interpretations of what the length of this string should be. So what do we think what should the length of this string be? There's a variety of, you can choose, there's some languages where the answer is 3. There's some languages like Racket where the answer is 5. There's some languages like JavaScript where the answer is 7. But there's some languages like Swift where the answer is 1, but it would at least be nice to know whether this is one character or many. So Racket now provides exactly the things you want, so that if you're thinking about strings and rendering them to the screen and, say, trying to build a graphical editor that will handle emojis correctly, these things can now work better and just do the right thing when you're trying to display or render or edit programs like this one. So this is an important step forward, both for handling emojis and for handling a wide variety of human languages that it's really important to get correct, so that people who speak those languages are getting a high-quality experience from Racket tools and from programs written in Racket. There's lots more improvements that I'll mention. There's a bunch of big num operations that are now much, much faster, like algorithmically faster, so that you go from waiting forever to completing in under a second. Racket CS is now significantly more portable. You can build it on any platform that has a C compiler and run it in an interpreted mode. So it's no longer limited to the platforms for which Shea Scheme has back-end code generator. This opens up possibilities for everything from people who package things for Linux distributions and for reasons that I don't fully understand really care about whether it builds on S390, to people who somewhat less surprisingly want to compile Racket and run it on WebAssembly. So that whole range of outdated, useless technology to IBM mainframes is now unlocked by this improvement to Racket CS's portability. So that's just a tour of some of the new features that you can look forward to. Now I want to give you an update on several features that I told you last year were about to arrive in Racket and have now arrived, or in some cases are about to arrive in Racket. Right, Ben? So the expeditor command line editor can now see that the REPL does things like parenthesis highlighting, syntax coloring. This is just my regular terminal highlighting some of the code from this talk. And it has parenthesis matching, it has line editing, it has navigation keys, you name it. If you expect those features from your REPL, that's now built into Racket.
What physics?
It's the expeditor.
How do I use this?
You type racket at the command line, and then you hit enter.
You're not actually going to answer the question.
That is the answer.
It changed it on you.
It's like read line, but better.
Yeah,
This is the REPL internal.
Okay, there's a lot of code there I haven't had a chance to read. Okay.
no, you're sitting very far away. No, this is built into the default installation of Racket. If you just download Racket and you run it on the command line, you automatically get a syntax highlighting, expression editing build that's built in and understands Racket syntax, uses the hash lang mechanisms that we expect and that are what's used for syntax coloring in Dr. Racket to also do syntax coloring in your terminal. So all those things are now available. So typed Racket, thanks to my student Fred Fu, has a kind system correcting some serious mistakes that I made earlier in my career. And so now when you try to write totally ridiculous programs, it says this program is ridiculous and please don't write it. Instead, try not to use the number type as a type constructor. Instead of just allowing some things in weird dynamic ways that don't work right. As Ben told you last time, we're really going to have Transient Typed Racket real soon now. So this is in fact shipping in 8.7. It's been merged, it works, it's great. I'm really excited for all the things we're going to be able to do building on this system. So these are some things that we previewed in the past but are now for real available either in 8.6 or for Transient Typed Racket coming up in 8.7. Okay. Now I want to talk about a bunch of people who have really stepped up and made a big impact on the Racket community in a variety of ways over the past year, and thank those people for their important contributions. So but before that, I want to talk about two big changes in the Racket community, both of which were in early stages when I talked about them last year and are now really the most important places where the Racket community spends time. The first is discourse. So we've moved almost entirely from mailing lists to discourse. I think this has been great. The engagement by everyone, from package developers to new people to core team members to people organizing community events or looking for help with their beginning student programs has been great, and there's way more engagement than there was on the various Racket mailing lists. So the Racket development mailing list has in fact already been turned off. Use discourse for that, and most likely in the future we're gonna, before the next time I give this talk, we're gonna turn off the Racket users list as well. Discourse is great. It works as a mailing list if you like mailing lists. It works as a web form if you like web forms. It works as a dessert topping if you haven't eaten enough bananas. Discourse is great. Discord is the other big place where the Racket community is hanging out today. If you would like to play Wordle with 5-letter identifiers from the Racket documentation, this is a real screenshot. Or if you would like to learn about how to build Racket on a new platform, or if you would like to get help with building your first website in Racket, or if you just like to hang out and chat with hundreds of other members of the Racket community, Discord is the place to do that. And really want to thank all the people who have participated, other moderators of the system, and everyone who's made the Racket Discord a great place. So those are two big places where you can find the Racket community when we're not all here together in Providence. I want to now thank a few people in particular. So one big change in how Racket infrastructure works is that we've spun up a group of people who are working on administering systems, like the system that lets you publish your packages, the systems that build those packages and run your compile your documentation and render it, or test everybody's systems. I want to thank, in particular, 3 people who've made a really big contribution to making this transition work, and who do the work so that I'm not doing it. So Ryan Stinnett, Sorowi, and who's here, and Sam Phillips have all made a big contribution and built a bunch of valuable things, do everything from diagnosing outages to deploying new features. And if you would like to hang out with us, let me know, and you can join us in the sysadmin channel on Discord. Another new infrastructural feature, Philip McGrath, who has done a ton of work on Racket's licensing, cleaning up outdated license information, and also built a tool that shows for every package what its license metadata says. So you can now see that, for example, the Bump V tool has the GPL 2.0 or later license. And that's just right there on packages.racketlang.org. And you can use that information in a machine-readable way. For example, Sorowi built a tool that queries that data and can tell you what licenses all of your dependencies use. So this is valuable if you're in a context where you need to ensure that you're distributing things according to their licenses when you're packaging something for distribution, or when you're bringing something into a company with particular license policies. All of those things are really valuable. So thank you, Phil. The Rhombus project, which I haven't talked much about, it continues apace. There's been work on the syntax, on keyword arguments, on the class system, on data structures, on strings, including motivating the work on graphemes or on equal always. And there's a bunch of people who have been really pushing this effort forward. So I particularly want to mention Sid, who's also the developer of Key, which is really cool system, and he's been a really big contributor to the Rhombus project as well. Lots of other people, like Jack Firth, has been really helpful in leading that effort. So this is another thing that we hang out. You should hang out with us. So weekly on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Or bi-weekly now, right? Is that right, Jack?
Every few weeks.
Yeah, on Thursdays. You can hang out too. We're doing it on Zoom, and you can participate in the development of Rhombus.
Check Discord.
Yeah. The hashtag Rhombus channel on Discord is a good place to find out about that. So, RacketCon. Obviously, how could we finish this without acknowledging the extraordinary work that Jesse and Sriram took on to make this happen? This is a new thing that Jesse's doing for the first time. So he's obviously organized great Racket events in the past. So this is a new person in charge of RacketCon. It's come out great. So let's all give a big hand to Jesse and Sriram. And then finally, I would not be able to talk about all the great contributions to the Racket community without talking about Stephen DeGabriel, who has really done absolutely everything for the Racket community. Hopefully he can hear this on the live stream since he can't be here today. But he's done everything from organizing the regular Racket meetup to on Gather, to helping to organize these summer events, to moderating Discord and Discourse, to just contributing to everything that Racket does to engage people, bring people in, talk to new people, and make this a fun and welcoming and vibrant community. So thank you again, Stephen. So with that, I want to thank all of you for this really fantastic RacketCon. It's been a pleasure to hear about all the awesome things that people are doing, ranging from teaching beginning programmers to automatically refactoring software to making their slides difficult to read like they were on a 8-bit display. So lots of great stuff happening in the Racket community. It's an honor to be here and to be part of it and to get to do this with all of you. So thank you.